Monday, May 8th at 3:03. And I see we have some town shop folks or town employees. You want to get to them first?
Please, if you would, I think Andre's kicking around on a little bit of a water issue. You may need to get back to Pickett. If we can talk about armored bathrooms, and Andre will give you as qualified an opinion as he can give you in regard to renovating one or more bathrooms over at Pickett. If you wanna, we're on camera, so you probably want to.
I guess you know there's two bathrooms. One is a male, one's a female bathroom. The male bathroom is in bad shape. The plaster's falling out of the ceiling, off the walls. And, you got a urinal, a commode, and a sink in there. I would definitely recommend doing the females one. It's less work. There's two commodes there. And I talked with Al, the inspector, and he was saying that we need to go with a ADA, which is gonna cost a little bit more if we're doing ADA. We gotta change the width of the hallway to get in there. You gotta have a 32-inch dimensions to make it through all the doorways. And the bathroom stalls need to be 36-inch. Of course, they're not now. Where everything will go back new. Roughly what the price would be for do one bathroom right now would be about $1,500. That's just a rough estimate. I'm waiting on prices to come back. With ADA, commode, sink, and the stalls.
And that's just for the female bathroom?
That's just for the female. That one is in better shape.
Would you turn that into a unisex, or you just
Yes.
going? Okay.
Yes, it will be a unisex, and the wall, it still needs some plaster work done. I mean, if we have to go in and replace all that, we'll have to pull all the wire mesh out, go way back to the studs, or either come back with a furnace strip and just put sheetrock over top of that, pull the tile off the wall. That's an option. That's what I mean. I would recommend doing that, then try to go back in there and repair a lot of the plaster work. The exterior wall on the building is brick and block. So with ADA, we have to change the plumbing. So we have to cut out some brick and block to change the plumbing on the exterior wall to get the commode to work. It'll be a little work, so yeah, I would definitely recommend doing that.
All right, I understand what you're saying, and I understand your skills. But so you're talking about $1,800, you say, 2,000?
15 to 18. That's just for the.
And that's just for material.
That's just for the toilet, the sink, and the dividers.
So if you hired
That's not
somebody to
even
come in there, it's a $10,000 job.
Easily.
Easily.
Yes, easily.
Okay.
Take care of the rest of it.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, are there any other questions of what you think you might?
I don't have any questions. Mr. Hamner, do you have any questions?
All right.
10,000 plus, and when
Yeah,
you get
yeah.
into that, you know what, you're gonna keep on going.
Yeah.
When you get in there and see what's going on, because you got to get the ADA, to get the hall right, we got to change the doorways. We got to cut out a interior wall to get 32 inches. Right now it's 30. So we got to reframe, and it could be some structural issues with the flooring above that on the balcony. So, yeah, you're right.
I used to live in your ward, Mr. Hamner, at 214 Forest Drive. I went down to Bevel's and got me a wax seal for a leaking toilet. I think it cost me about $3. And $8,800 later, I was finished.
That's right.
So
Yeah.
when I got the toilet up, and next thing you know, there's George Surratt, and you know the deal.
Yeah, you know.
So
Yeah,
I'm
we hadn't got
listening.
that far, so. That's-
So I noticed it's on the agenda. This is the first I've heard of it. Can you give me some background?
I think it's a matter of the last.
Thank you, Andre.
Right. Yeah, we-
Good. Last council meeting, I think Walter Mack had asked if we could give a price, and I think this was referred to the committee, to see what it would cost for a bathroom to go in there for Andre and
We were
Dan.
just wondering, because we had porta potty outside. It hadn't been acceptable, and some people want to use the building from time to time, and felt we could maybe co-op and fix it.
I'm remembering this correctly, though.
But we did not realize the ADA thing, and we've got a board meeting this week, certainly our board, we can talk about it, and see if we want to hand up any money, or just even pursue it at all. We don't even ask for it, because we're just trying to get an idea.
Yeah, cost-wise, I don't think there was a need for action. I think Walter Mack asked, and it was referred to the committee. And I asked Andre to drop what he was doing and run over here and tell us what his opinion was. And he'd been over there 2 or 3 times. And did you talk to Al? Last time I got an email, you did talk to Al?
I met with Al Friday.
Okay.
That's when he told me about the ADA
measurements on the hallway.
All right, there's no request of the committee. We've been informed. We'll move on. All right.
Everybody says
What's
that.
your next item?
All right.
I would like you to take up your items in the least amount of priority, giving President Thompson a chance to get here, if you will.
We do have not only two staff people, and Sharon here. I assume all things cemetery are of interest to these folks.
Okay.
And if we can talk cemetery very quickly. I, of course, was given all the data that I needed to finalize the cemetery policies, and I forgot them at the house this morning when I was running out the door to catch my school bus that I ride. Did you know I can't drive, so I ride the school bus, and it's sitting on the counter in my house, and we're going to meeting later to do that. However, we do have some cemetery issues, one of which I asked
Well,
David.
let me cut you off. Before, I would like us to have, and Ms. Dalton to have, the cemetery policy for a couple of weeks before we even come to the committee
Okay,
with it,
well-
okay? I mean,
When he gave them to me on Friday, and I was going to be
yeah,
ready for today.
I would really like to go over them frontwards and backwards, because I shared a story in here one time. I don't know if we were recorded back then, but the ones I read brought tears to my eyes. So I want to make sure, that I've had a chance to read all of it before we're asked to endorse anything. So, but if you got cemetery issues,
We do.
then the floor is yours.
Which you had planted the crepe myrtles that were of some concern a couple months ago. We were talking, here comes Miss Thompson. So the crepe myrtles have been done. We had an issue where, and David can tell you, but I think it was Lathan Toth, the guys that were digging a grave during our very wet period recently, made a heck of a mess over there, and I don't think that the quality of work was satisfactory to the property owners, the families, or to the town to put the ruts back like they were. The town went in there and did it, and we just want to notify you that we're going to send McMillan Funeral Home a invoice for the work. It's an hour and a half of three people's time. Hour and a half for a loader and an hour and a half for a pickup. I don't think it's going to be a dramatic amount of money, less than $200, I suspect. And it's our intention to send an invoice for them to reimburse the town for making quite a mess that David and the guys had to fix over there.
Like President Thompson is arrived here, and I want to make sure that it's clear to her what you're speaking of. You've already informed me about it, but there's no reason for me to get in the middle of it. I want you to make sure you understand what he's talking about, okay?
When it was very wet, there was a grave dug in the cemetery, and when they backed up their equipment to dig the grave, which they had to do, they didn't put any mats down or any plywood, which is kind of protocol, and it made a tremendous mess with the ruts. Gwyneth and David saw it going on, and I think they put some dirt back in the ruts, but it really wasn't satisfactory. And across from you, I don't know if you saw it. It was a heck of a mess. It looked bad. So David and the boys went back and fixed it, and we're going to send McMillan Funeral Home about roughly a $200 invoice for three gentlemen for an hour and a half, plus a loader and a pickup. So I expect it to be a little less than $200. Okay.
Sounds fair.
And I just don't want you to get a phone call, Mr. Hamner, or anybody else, so you know what's going on, and Joe may or may not agree with the charges, but that keeps y'all from getting jumped in the middle of food line.
Well, generally things like that, I think you do an excellent job of handling, and you have our support. But in this particular case, since there is the possibility of some blowback, I'm going to move that we support. I move that the Building and Property Committee recommend to council that you proceed with this invoice.
We'll put it on the agenda.
Second, Ms. Thompson. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Philip, I think, stand to be corrected. I heard from one of the employees of the funeral home down there that Latham has bought all the equipment from Joe. And I'm not taking sides on either one. So if he is contracting and his equipment and everything, maybe you're sending the bill to the wrong person.
That may be the case, yeah, that may be the case. And I have a very similar issue with the county as well, with the sewage haul. The gentleman that totes septic, not septic, I'm saying the wrong term, water out of their leachate ponds or their lagoons at the landfill. There were some problems again, and the county disagreed with the assessment, and I spoke with Mr. Edmonds.
That is an excellent point, and I'm glad you brought it up. That's why I wanted you so desperately on this committee. But But I think you're right, and please chime in if you don't. I think the bill ought to be directed to Joe and let Mr. McMillan collect if
That's
that's the
fine.
problem. Because
That's
that's his responsibility being the funeral director. You agree with that?
I agree with that. And then in the future, you will know after this is taken care of.
Who gets the bill from this point forward?
We're also sending a message that they ought to
Reoccurrence.
use the plywood or grates, whatever it is, not to keep this from happening.
And part of the reason I say Joe is because we've had a old headstone. Remember the one that was flushed to the ground and they did a burial? They drove over it with a backhoe and we sent Joe the invoice. I say we sent Joe the invoice. We asked Joe to fix it, and Joe was responsible, and he got it fixed. It's still got a crack in it, but nonetheless, it's been put back. Very old tombstone.
Well, since we're fortunate enough to have a council meeting a week from today, let us make the recommendation to council and have you back. That's basically what I'm trying to do here, okay? Now, before you continue, Andre was here and gave a presentation on the Armory bathrooms. $1,800, did he say? 15?
For just the fixtures.
$1,500 just for the fixtures, let alone any piping or anything else. And I asked him, I said, so, you know, if we contracted somebody, you talking about a $10,000 or $12,000 job? And he said, yes. So that's basically all. There was an information. We were not asked to do anything, but that was the information that we got from him. So, and I had asked him to go in order of least relevance until you got here. So now we'll just start. We'll go at your. You can go at this agenda in your order and pace as you desire.
The next item is, I've had a conversation, if you guys remember, one of the last council meetings, the mayor asked me if the town would be interested in communicating with the folks we had been adverse with in regards to, I think, the Atkins family, about the location where Mr. Atkins was buried. And I think much of the legal proceedings are behind us. And the mayor asked if the town would still be interested in communicating with the Atkins family as to resolving the matter between the headstone and relocating the vault. And the answer was, that I gave to the mayor that night, would be as long as the town's legal counsel was satisfied that there was no admission of doing something or something that would affect that previous ruling. I had that conversation with Gary Simmons, who still has the headstone at Simmons Monument. He had been in contact with the family for whatever reason, I don't know, but he did mention to a family member that they may want to communicate with us to see if there is some resolution to either moving somebody or putting a new stone in. And because we have been adverse with the Atkins family, I don't want to go out and do that until certainly this committee and or the full council has some comfort level that is appropriate to do so. All right.
I tell you what I'm comfortable with, and I want to hear from my committee members too. If their attorney will draft up a document holding us harmless, I think the town should move the body. But as long as we have their attorney provides us a document that Tessie can sign off on, I would make that recommendation to council. That's how I feel. Mr. Hamner or Ms. Thompson, how do you feel?
Sort of the same way you feel.
Why was this brought up to start with?
It came from, and I don't know if there was a communication between the family and the mayor, but if you remember, I think it was at the end of, I wasn't here in March, so it must have been either the February or the April council meetings, and asked would the town be interested in maybe some negotiation or settlement as far as resolving the location of, I believe, Mr. Atkins is his name. And my response to the mayor that night would be, or was, as long as there was some hold harmless or some agreement that the town wasn't making any admissions or anything like that, and our attorney was satisfied with it. And I had that conversation with Mr. Simmons, and I think Mr. Simmons had talked to the Atkins family. I think the individual's name is Christy Yates, who may be a daughter of the gentleman
Question,
deceased.
concerning this. When you're talking about Mr. Simmons, evidently we're dealing with the stone here.
Hmm?
Is is that stone cut wrong, on the wrong side? Is it cut for him here and he's over here, or vice versa?
That's correct. It is. That stone has been cut, and that's how the whole thing came to a discussion point. Is Mr. Atkins had been buried for some time, and when the stone was delivered, wait a minute.
All right, I'm with you.
Yeah, that's, I think, really when it got started, the discussions began.
What do you propose?
If it's okay with y'all, as long as we get some document that holds us harmless, in other words, we're not at fault, we haven't done anything wrong, we're not accepting any responsibility, but we will move the deceased to where they originally wanted.
If that's what their wishes are. I haven't talked to
That's
the
what their
family,
wishes
but
As
That
long,
involves opening a new grave, opening the other grave, picking it up here, putting it here, or vice versa.
I'm not sure what's entailed, and you probably know a whole lot better than I do.
And David can do 90% of that.
Mm-hmm.
You catch the vault man up here on the day he's delivering the vault, he can do it a whole lot less, and you can engage him to come from the company
And move it over.
to move it over.
Mm-hmm.
Catch him when it's a funeral out there, get David's open place grave out there. Open that, in other words, I'm trying to save the town some money on this
Mm-hmm. Sure.
thing, and
Yes, sir.
can be done in a snap.
And I don't know what the ultimate agreement would look like if there were one, cost share or the town proposing what, but I think I could call Miss Yates and get them to tell us what they want to do, bring it to the full council, and then you can give a formal response based on recommendation from the committee.
And one other thing, I think the law requires a licensed funeral director there to supervise that. I'll do it at no cost to the town.
There you go. Can't ask for more than that.
well, would you ball all that up into a motion?
Yes, I would. Word it any way you want to. If it's on the legal part, we have got to get a release from them, from the town, I mean, from the family.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the town, if this is fine, that would save them a lot of money. Well, they have put us through it too, so.
And we'll bring this to the town council as a recommendation, and I will, maybe I can call Ms. Yates and say, I don't know the resolution, but I didn't want to think you were ignoring, but I've met with the committee, and they're going to take it to the full council to begin this process, and just let her know whatever the council comes up with will be the decision.
All right, is this something that you think you could have done between now and next Monday?
Well, I think the only thing that we need to do is tell Ms. Yates that the full council is going to hear your recommendation. I can repeat to her what that recommendation is, and tell her that the full council has to vote on it. And I don't think there's a decision to do it. I think the decision is we need to see an agreement and make sure that that is satisfactory between all the parties.
Who is Ms. Yates?
Pardon?
Who is Ms. Yates?
I think it's a daughter. That was the name given to me by Gary Simmons, who gave me a call the other day.
This is a little will you help
Very complex, yeah.
Will you help frame a motion
Sure.
for the clerk?
Absolutely.
Draft agreement holding the town harmless, and Councilman Hamner has offered himself at no charge to help with the moving of the body.
With the assistance of our Director of
Public work.
Public Works at a time convenient to the town.
Yeah, if we can do it in conjunction with somebody doing a vault, yeah, it's a whole lot easier.
All right, also, and this may not need to be in the motion, but when this new grave to be opened, I want to remember the town of the family out there and says, this is where I want it, like we always do, and sign that paper that you have, David.
Mm-hmm. And make them say, yes, this is exactly where, well, absolutely. Those are the things we need to have as part of the agreement as attachments or exhibits to that agreement, sure.
And in this case, we will not have to bother the Bureau of Vital Statistics or the Health Department far as changing place of burial on the death certificate because it's still Lakeview Cemetery.
Gotcha. All right. Are you
You
good?
see, I'm smarter than the average bear when I
There you go.
got him on this committee. Huh?
I've got another cemetery issue I want. Did you
All right,
bring
so,
the,
hold on a minute. We have a motion. Would you care to second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. No opposed. Motion carries 3-0. All right, Mr. Van Orbeck, you have another cemetery issue?
I do. Some time ago, there was an untimely death of a individual here in town, and a 2-lot grave space was sold to a family member, and their loved one was buried in one of the graves. There's a second grave which we have, I can't say repossessed, but we're repossessing, I guess is the proper term, simply because there was no payment made for either of the graves. All right. I hate to do it. We hate to see this come about, but after multiple communications between Gwinnett and the family, we have not had any satisfaction. We just want to let you know, again, so you're not in Food Line, that there is a grave that has not been paid for, and an individual has been buried in it. The individual died suddenly. I don't know if the family had the ways and means to pay for it, so we did permit it to be buried, or that individual be buried, and we have some collections that we've got to do. Okay, so heads up. If you need any more details, we can provide you copies of the previous ones. Okay.
So what if they never pay?
Pardon?
What if they never pay?
We're going to take a warrant out. We'll have to collect it as we would the tax lien, or put it on their income or salary, or state tax returns, or any other legal means that we have to do it. We're certainly not going to move said individual, so we're going to have to get it. And the last name of the individual is Webb. Okay, and the family.
That's a child that was buried there.
I think it is his child or stepchild. Killed in a car accident.
Yeah, I was about to say that.
Well, the 2 is 800, it's 400 for the 1. Yeah, and we wouldn't allow anybody to be buried in the undisturbed grave. We can sell the other one, but there is an individual buried in one of the graves that hadn't been paid.
What, are you finished?
Yeah.
What powers do we have?
Well, it is a
Do we have the
tight.
power do we have the power to forgive that debt?
I guess the council has the ability to do. I mean, you own it. They don't have a formal deed to the property. It's not been issued because it hadn't been paid for, so it's just in limbo. It's just sitting there, and we haven't been able to collect the debt. We have a payment agreement signed by family members, but they haven't come in and paid it. I guess council has the ability to forgive it, yeah, if you want to. But it was a 2-grave set that was agreed upon at $800. One individual was buried in one of them, and
But the
get
debt
that one.
actually is 400 now.
yeah, it's 400 because there's somebody planted and buried there.
Yes, ma'am.
Council will forgive half of it, but I'll pay the other half.
That's beautiful.
For the one grave?
Yeah.
Yeah. We can sell the other one as a single.
I paid part of the funeral too.
Pardon?
I paid part of the funeral too. That old boy was a good friend of mine.
So your offer would be for $200 and the town forgive 200?
No. No. I make a motion, council, forgive the debt in lieu of the tragedy of the situation. Is there a second?
Second. I think so too.
Any discussion? I'm moving to recommend to council not to forgive the debt. Any discussion?
Not to forgive the debt?
No, to forgive the
forgive it.
debt.
For the 400.
For the
Not
400.
no 800. Mm.
I understand, and maybe I shouldn't bring this up because it's strictly hearsay, but a tremendous amount of money was taken up during that period for that family.
I don't think it was enough to pay for the funeral. 'Cause I
It what?
gave Joe some on the funeral.
Ma'am?
I don't think it was enough to pay for the funeral, because I gave Joe some on the funeral. The old boy was a really good friend of, like, all of his life was on him.
Yes, ma'am.
And they, I mean, they should be able to pay for it, but
And we'd given them some payment terms, that a little bit here, a little bit there, and we'd take $10 a week or $10 a month if they would make payments, but there's been no response and no effort to make payments on it.
well, you know, if you offered them that, they might do that.
We did offer to them.
We offered that.
They signed that they would do that.
Well, not for
Not for $10, but we, is $100 a week, $100 a month?
Well, Mr. Webb's daughter, my understanding, she's told me, I didn't sit under her, she told me that she would pay $100 in January, $100 in February, and in March pay it off. And I'd have sent her letters.
It was about $25 a week is what roughly had been agreed to. Hadn't received it. Oh,
The floor is yours, Mr. Hamlin.
Ms. Dalton knows more about it than I know. I don't think I know what he'll say. But
I have heard some horrible stories about situations like that where there's been donations and people were spending the money at Bass Pro Shops and blah, 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 but I have not heard that on this situation. I have heard it, I've been in Blackstone since 1989, and I've heard 2 or 3 times where families have received an outpouring of love and support, and it was, people were buying hunting gear with it, you know, but I have not heard that this
I haven't
this
heard
time.
anything.
And we've got a $15 million budget we're gonna ask council to approve here presently.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to see this table for a while.
I don't think the world is coming to an end. I don't.
No, I don't think, I'd like to see this thing ride along for a while.
You wanna see, so you would,
You've got a motion in there, but.
I do have a motion and a second. I can certainly
Withdraw.
withdraw it. We're here, that's beauty of this committee. We need, this is, we've got the opportunity here to speak more freely than we normally do. Even though we got an eye in the sky. And that, you know, if you've got something on your mind, both of y'all's opinions are very important to me. When I speak for you on Monday night, I want to know how you feel, both of you.
Well, when you send the letters, you sign the letters. Do you sign the
Yes.
correspondence?
Yes.
Have you ever, maybe if you sign one, Philip, it might make a difference. And put a little,
We can press forward and see
yeah,
if there's any churches in the area that may be interested in donating and things.
that's right.
If you are reluctant to cover it, this is the letter that we're sending out.
I don't want any hardship on anybody. No. They have had enough hardship apparently, but I would like to see this held over for a month or 2. Either I can go with the motion.
Why don't we just set a deadline so this just doesn't hang out there forever and ever? If you'd like a little more time, why don't we say within 30 days we'll get back to it and then make a decision within 30 days definitively?
How do you feel about give this 30 days, whenever next time we meet after 30 days, whenever that would be, that you bring it up. If it's 45 days or 60 days, whenever it is, but 30 days from today, we meet again, you give it, and then would you personally go back and say, look, we need $5 a week or $25 a month, or we need something to change this from a collection to a payment. How do you feel about
I
that?
feel good.
I withdraw,
Paid within 30 days.
but,
It may be paid within 30 days. You know, so.
okay, all right.
We're bringing it to you in case we start an enforcement action, and it's a very touchy situation. And who wants to be standing in food line when an upset family member is speaking to you? Heads up again, so we're giving you.
So I'm gonna withdraw my motion to forgive the debt. You withdraw your second.
I withdraw.
President Thompson has withdrawn her second. So I move now that we table this issue for 30 days until such time this committee convenes again.
Very good.
Mr. Hamner seconds. All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries.
Can I say something about this?
Yes, ma'am.
I know this little boy made a big impression on a lot of kids. I'm out there every day, sometimes 2 and 3 times a day. And I see a lot of kids come down there and bow their heads or lay their hats down. And it's not every day, but I see it, and I'm not there all the time, so I don't know how many people's there every day. But I see these kids, and I know it's really had a big impression on him. And his little sister came back and talked to me after. We was right down the hill from Cecil. And was talking, I was talking about his son coming in. But when went to June something, and they said that they didn't have the money to buy his son. They didn't know when they would do his son. So,
Randy Webb do his son,
yeah.
and he does most of the Webb sheetrock, doesn't he? Man,
Just being trifling.
I don't know anything about the
Would you hate to-
parent,
We really don't know what's
No
going
one
on.
to rub something.
but
Puts us in a bad way.
the little boy I know, this little boy, he got in a lot of trouble in the last.
Well, it sounds to me like I got a triangle here of three good people that might be able to get back together, and before this committee meets again, you might have some good news for us.
I
That's,
got a question. If somebody comes and says, I'll give you $400 for that one, you'll take that other one like we did before and just resell it as a single grave?
that's town manager call.
Unless they come up with $800, I think
Right,
that you gotta
right.
do it, yeah.
I
And
would
so
like
is
to
a
see you
single.
put a hold on that and give it to him, give him some time on it. I'd put a hold on it for
We can
90
hold-
days,
yeah.
6
We can
months or
hold it
whatever.
on.
I don't think that's council level. I think that's up to y'all, okay? All right, next item,
We go back to the cemetery.
okay?
Streets and signage, this budget that we're working on, I'm gonna come over here so Mr. Hamner can hear me. I think this is near and dear. We wanted to talk about some numbers. We have some money in the budget for signage in there, but I wanted to give you a clear understanding that the roads in the cemetery, the east-west roads, okay, including that section over which we just put that culvert in,
Running, the east-west roads runs just like the numbered streets do,
Going
just
in
like the
right.
numbered
You're looking
streets.
at about $136,000 per B&B Consultants in our cemetery operating fund, okay? About $96,000. You've got almost $100,000 in the cemetery operating fund that could be accessed for that purpose, okay? You have about $212,000 in the cemetery perpetual care fund, but that's not to be.
Can't touch
you know
that.
the deal, that one needs to be left alone, okay?
And and memory serves, we've fixed it, so we're putting the minimum amount required by law.
The 10%.
The 10% is the minimum amount, so we can't, we've done all we can do with that.
Into perpetual care. Those are the numbers. And I think during the course of these committee meetings or finance or budget, if there's anything else you guys want to do, but the signs are in there, and we can address those streets one at a time if we want. But I think in reality, if we're going to sit here and try to do the roads on the revenue that's coming in, it's going to take a long time, a whole long time. Okay? If you're going to try to do the east-west road, tar and gravel, the new section, any of that sort of thing, because these east-west roads don't include the section to the south between the homes on 10th Street. And those are just gravel where Cecil is. That's going to take a long time if the only revenues that we're using are the revenues we need to collect from the sale of lots. At $400, we're just not doing anything. Actually, $360 per grave, if I'm not mistaken, that goes into the operating fund, and $40 goes into perpetual care, which is the 10%. It's going to take a long time. Now, we can start chipping away at it, and we can do a street at a time or a section at a time, but we'll eat that cemetery operating fund up, and it won't be replenished just with the sale of lots. I think it's going to take a long time to replenish it. Okay? That's
But
the
Mr.
reality of the
Hamner brought
cemetery.
up a great point, that, a lot of people come here to the cemetery, and then they end up in town buying stuff and meals tax. I don't have to preach to the choir, meals tax pays the bills. So I understand. So you're kind of talking in circles to me. What are you saying?
I think you're going to have to plan on these roads.
Okay.
I don't think you can just take it out of the cemetery reserve fund. I think you're going to have to do some planning, not just with what you're collecting during the course of the year, which is less than $20,000, I think. You got to sit back and look, are we going to make some transfers into the cemetery fund to do this? We do one street this year, one street next year, one street the following year. because we always have a paving contract every year. So we can address one road at a time with our paving contracts, but it's gonna take a long time if all we use is cemetery operating fund. Okay, a long time.
Well, are you thinking a 5-year plan or a 7-year
I think
plan?
what I need to present you, because we need to do the section where we put the new culvert in, because that's just dirt at this point. Okay, we need to get that resolved and finished, at least the first section coming off of 8th Street back to the first north-south road, and get that dealt with this year. We do need to do that, okay? Because it's gonna be muddy. If we go through the winter and that's not addressed, you're gonna have a mud hole over there. And pay for that with operating fund. But as we get into it further, we need to have a plan. How much is it gonna cost, and where does it come from? Okay, we're already doing the collections there, but you're gonna have some transfers from the general fund to fully fund it. Excuse me. It's gonna take a while, all right? Unless we focus and find a way to take from the general fund, and transfer an appropriate amount each year into the operating fund of the cemetery.
So what do you need us to do today?
If it's a priority to do the road or roads, all I propose to do at this summer in the paving contracts we already have contracts, we only rebid it, is that section from 8th Street to cover up those culverts that we just stuck in the ground by the new monument that we just put in, okay?
Philip, would that take it all the way down to Pine Street, which crosses,
Is Pine Street the first one?
no, Pine Street is,
The last one where you make the loop?
Yeah.
No, I don't think that would, because that's really no base right there. We're gonna have to build a base and then shoot the tar and gravel, and if we wanna do that, we certainly can. Okay? $96,000 will certainly do down to Pine Street. And if that's the intention of the committee, then we can do that. And we can show that in the budget or anything else that you wanna do. We can show a transfer from cemetery operating into the expenditures of the cemetery budget, and it won't affect rates and all those kinds of things, and it'll be a much lesser number than the $136,000. It'll be significantly less. If that's the one street we wanna focus on this year, gotta build some base, and then shoot it with tar and gravel. And the tar and gravel contractors will be here in August.
and next year, would you move to Memorial?
I don't know the names of the streets, but
Well, that's the
committee
main
would-
street going down through the,
down through the center.
yeah. That's a long street, the longest street's in the
But it's
city.
already paved.
Huh?
It's already paved, and it's probably not the worst street. It's probably not the worst street in there. So we can focus on that one the next year, and then focus on another street, and then come back. But I don't think your $96,000 is going to get the whole thing done.
What do you think?
Your street is nice.
How much it cost? How much it cost?
How much are you talking about? What are you suggesting? What are you
My suggestion is
suggesting
the
to
council's
us?
gonna have to sit down and come up with a plan that I will propose to you, whereby we start transferring some money into the cemetery fund to build up a war chest to get those road paved over there, if that's the intention of paving. Because just using the money we get from the sale lots is not gonna do it.
No.
So what about the signs? The signs are budgeted,
We're
right?
budgeted this year,
Okay.
and unless something changes, we would buy new signs this year.
This year, meaning that's over.
Next fiscal year, starting July 1.
Right.
Right. What he's proposing sound all right to me.
Does that sound agreeable to you? Right. You don't need action from the committee.
I want y'all to know what we're getting into, so when
You-
the budget comes up, well, what about the roads? That's where the roads ended up this year.
Okay.
All right,
All right.
but we can do that one particular road. What's the name of it? When you come into, huh?
Off the,
To the right.
yeah, to 8, down to Birch, down to Pine Street.
Okay.
If you don't go all the way down.
I think we do need to address that, otherwise we're gonna have a real mud hole down there
You
this
you
year.
got the money to go and do that.
We got it.
Okay, so you're gonna go take care of that. That's already in this year's budget, right?
The paving is in this year's budget. If it will fall within the square yards we're allocated, then I don't have any issues. But we can pay for that one section at a cemetery operating.
Right.
And it should be $25,000, $30,000, depending on what kind of basis.
You good with you?
But I think we gotta
That's
do.
not all the way to the end, you were talking about just in the section, right?
No, I think $30,000 will take us to the end. It'll take us all the way to Pine.
Okay.
Okay. Right.
You and
agree
Philip
to
been
disagree?
kissing?
It would be me and her got the same thing.
Oh,
I think that's the last thing I have on the cemetery.
All right.
You're tabling the Sea Park issue, Jennifer?
I am.
You're tabling it, okay. I see table written on the agenda.
All right, I moved that the religious symbols at Sea Park issue be tabled until further notice. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Till somebody comes to us, we're not touching it.
Okay. Town shop, let's talk about that very quickly. The 90 days, as you guys know, for the purchase of the town shop, the due diligence period has begun. As of, I think, the last council meeting, you guys authorized the signature of the contract amendment, and I expect a rezoning application literally any day now. And I did receive an email from them today stating that they had some historic resources resolution that they were fairly optimistic about, and I'd be happy to share with the committee, and we'll send them out. But they felt pretty positive about the Department of Historic Resources, who had some questions about the metal barrel roof, and they want to know what the original was. So I went to the source, Doug Colburn, and he actually remembered in 1953 when he went on council that the barrel roof was there. But previous to that, perhaps during World War II, there was an old wooden roof that he said a lot of people came and got the wood because they made good boats out of them, because they were cedar planks. I don't know if maybe you remember some of this stuff, but nonetheless, we got them the information we could find, and I think we're okay. Public restrooms. I think this is something Jennifer added because it had been referred to us at some point. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Carolyn Davis had brought this up as an issue about some public bathrooms for events, like when they have DBI events in the square and all that sort of
You talking
thing.
about putting it in the square?
I was thinking that was the intention, that some public bathrooms be added in the town square, somewhere to the rear or to the side, either against what used to be Joe Teefe's building, I guess is Hawthorne's building, and/or against the corner kitchen side of the property.
It's up for discussion.
Is this a project that we want to, I think it's going to be a little pricey now. This is not something that we sneeze at.
So
If
we'd
this-
be owning these, not renting them for.
We'd be owning them, yeah. Now, the thing about it is we got to keep them clean, and this
That's
is,
what I'm talking about.
this is going to be a headache
I want
because
to
people
hear
are not
from
going to
y'all.
treat them kindly.
There's no, I'm gonna hear Ms. Thompson, what's your thoughts on it?
Well, I think it's a good idea because people do need to go to the restroom. But I don't know about us buying them.
Might build them.
What would be cheaper, to buy them or just rent them as we need them?
I think the Porta-Johns are our cheapest option. Porta-Johns are your cheapest option. Now, the only reason we built bathrooms at the fire training ground is because we had a modular set of bathrooms that used to be at Wrigglesworth, and we just picked them up and moved them in pieces and parts, and we put them at the fire training grounds and reconnected them. Otherwise, we're going to destroy them and, tear them down. I think if you do anything, I think the policy needs to be they need to be open during events and not necessarily at other times now, because they're going to get destroyed. If you leave them up open all night, they're going to be messy.
I have
At
no
best.
interest whatsoever to get within a mile of it. Ms. Thompson?
I can't use it, so.
I make a motion, we recommend the council to deny the request and to stay out of the public restroom business.
I second it.
I think you're going to regret the water backups and sewage backups and toilet paper shoved down the commodes and all those kinds of
We got
things.
enough things that we can get, people can find fault with us, and that's the last thing I need is people at the podium with a dirty bathroom. So,
I agree.
been a motion and a second, all those in favor say aye. Aye. So we're
Thank
gonna
you.
recommend the council to avoid that at all costs. Okay?
The last thing is the Bon Secours request, which is not of imperative nature, and it is attached to your agenda that is in front of you. Bon Secours recognizes that the last payment for the medical center will be made in 2019. June of 2019, I believe, is the date. The last payment will be made. It was a 10-year agreement, and it was a 10-year bond deal. The town will be out of debt for that particular project in 2019, okay? They've been making their payments. We've been making their payments, and approximately their rent payments cover, and maybe a little more, but not much. It's about $22,000 a month that we collect from them, and we pretty much turn around and give it back to VML Vaco, which is the folks that lend it to us. My understanding was that it was a 20-year agreement between Bon Secours and the town, with a 10-year renewable, or period of renew after 10 years. But it was supposed to be a 20-year. I think the intention from Larry was we wanted to get it paid off, and then the second 10 years, or the renew period, would be at a lower rate. They're the only issue I see here is not so much the money. We can look back and see what the appropriateness of that, but they're only proposing a 5-year renewable. Okay.
It was 10 and 10. I was on the
There
committee.
you go. There you go. It was 10 and 10, and they're proposing a 5. So I see a little stumbling block there because there was a lot of efforts. My concerns about going less is that DHCD and the Tobacco Commission put a lot of money in that building, and we want to make sure that our agreements with DHCD are honored with anything we do with these guys. So we'll start looking around for those agreements and getting in touch with DHCD and Tobacco Commission and making sure that any renewal that we have honors those two grant programs that we had. But I think it's 10 and 10. They're proposing a 10 and 5. Okay.
How do you feel about the per square foot rent? I mean,
Well, I think we just need to go and find out what the market rate is. I think Jennifer Beck and I had looked it up one time, and it was roughly half. I think we were looking back, instead of a $22,000 a month with CAMS, which is a triple net, which is plowing the snow and doing all those kinds of things. I think we were like $10,000, $11,000 or something on the square foot that she found as the commercial going rate, in addition to the CAMS. But that's not written down. We need to get a better figure.
I would like the council, to consider they paid for the building, and also it is a service to the community.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm kind of like you. I kind of glanced over it, and it's hard reading, man.
It's tough.
But I'm with you. Let's before we go to council with any kind of recommendation, let's get that 5 or 10 year thing set.
And I think there may be some interest, and maybe in the town's been interest. Do you want to keep it on a small with a renewable after 5 or a renewable annually? Because if they don't want to fully staff, I think there's been some question about them keeping an appropriate number of doctors, and I think some folks in the community have said they're not seeing patients and all that sort of thing. Is there a reason we might want to keep it at 5 years? But I don't want to make DHCD unhappy with us, and I don't want to make Tobacco Commission unhappy with us.
I don't know about the committee, and y'all chime in. That's my first concern, because what DHCD has done for this community has been a lot. The second concern is the service to the public.
Yeah.
So we may be if these agencies that helped us said we don't care what you do with it, then I think our due diligence would be to
Look for as many options out there as possible.
Dip your toe in the water, right?
Okay. That may have more of maybe a hospital component or a critical care component. I mean, maybe those are the kinds of things that we can look at in the negotiation. But the negotiation, we're 2 years ahead. So I don't think we're in crisis at this point to resolve it. But I will look for the DHCD and the Tobacco Commission obligations and commitments. Okay?
Any other items?
Very quickly, and I'm glad Eric is here. I wanted to announce that the basketball court bid opening is on May 11th at 3 o'clock in this room. That's for the concrete. The goals probably will be here before then. They've been ordered. I received an email earlier today as to the location of our new flagpole, which has also been purchased, and it should be here. It was shipping no later than the 10th, so it's here. Flagpole's here, so we just need to put it in.
That was supposed to come out of some
Centennial Fund money, about $10,000, $11,000 that we're holding in cash, that the Centennial Committee, Jerome, if you remember, was still holding some cash, and he closed the checking account and gave us the money, and we set it aside. One other thing that we're doing, two other things that we're doing in Sea Park, so you know, is the Sea Park sign, which is right there in front of the flagpole, which is dreadful. We signed a purchase order for Walt, Jennifer? Maraski, to build a new one at the cost of, I think, $250. And that should be put up about the same time as the flagpole. And we're going to put a new shingle, set of shingles on the gazebo this year. We didn't want to do it before Christmas, but as all three are completed, I think we'll have a little more attractive area. But the flagpole's here.
All right. How about the plaque? Have you got the plaque installed?
On here in the front, David's gotten that installed, yeah. It's already up if you look at it. One thing I may ask David to look for is some bronze screws. We got those silver screws. If you got some bronze screws as an alternative, they may look a little better. Well, we got a recording, and I might as well use it. The last thing is the playground. We have some playground equipment. If you remember, some of it was caught on fire and vandalized. If we're going to move the playground, I'd like to start that process either with the rec committee and building and grounds, as we get this basketball goal going, this basketball court moving forward, I'd like to resolve the playground location. If we're gonna leave it there, we've got some equipment we need to put in, some we need to take out. If we're gonna move it, then I don't wanna have to repeat the process twice, okay?
So how would y'all like to see this handled? Barbara and Wade, you want Eric and I to talk about it and see which committee needs to take it on, or do we wanna take it on? It's certainly building properties, you know, how do you wanna proceed?
It doesn't matter with me.
Doesn't matter, whatever.
Whatever.
We just gotta
whatever
decide if we're gonna move it.
Legally, the three of us can meet and we'll get some kind of plan together and we'll just jointly propose it to council. Is that agreeable?
Wonderful.
Is that agreeable with you?
That's agreeable.
Okay?
Absolutely. Last item, we did receive notification last week that the town has tentatively been awarded their TAP 21 grant, which is the one that's on that board, for a portion of the curb and gutter, sidewalk, street paving and maintenance, antique lights, trees, all that sort of thing at the entrance to Wigglesworth, going in front of the new basketball court, and in front of both basketball courts, actually. So I think that part of town, which looks a little tough right now, we've been waiting for announcement. We've received a tentative allocation, and if you look at the budget documents, it's about $260,000 from the state to put those improvements in.
That's nice.
Okay? I'm done with my presentation.
All right. Anything from the committee or anything from the audience? I'll call the meeting adjourned at 3:55. Thank y'all.
You'll have to get that, microphone sanitized. Need some of those things to go over. Just talking right up in it. Next person come on, they be all up in it.
I know it. He was all up in it, wasn't he? Oh, mercy.
Oh, Lord.
I thought you said the meeting was at 2. I walked
I
up
told you it was at 2. Finance was at 2.
No, it wasn't.
It was. I told you, come on.